Did anyone else not have Final Fantasy X-3 on their 2021 bingo card, or was that just me? In case you missed the news yesterday morning, Motomu Toriyama, a leading director at Square Enix, announced that the third game in the Final Fantasy X trilogy could be coming once production on Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 wraps. While the possibility of a sequel is sure to thrill many, Enix's track record with the ever-convoluted Final Fantasy XIII trilogy and the lukewarm, if not downright cold-hearted reception to Final Fantasy X's sequel, novel, and audio drama have die-hard fans hopeful for improvement, but skeptical of success. Or at least that's the case for this fan. Were this solely about the Fabula Nova Crystallis series, which Toriyama also spearheaded, I would have given this an abundance of grace. Every author learns from their past projects, and that one in particular taught plenty of painful lessons. However, if you have ever dared to endure Final Fantasy X's supplementary material, you would understand my trepidation. For those unaware, the Final Fantasy X saga didn't stop with Final Fantasy X-2. In Japan, the stories of Tidus and Yuna continued with a surprisingly racy novel called Final Fantasy X 2.5, Price of Eternity, and thereafter with an audio drama called Final Fantasy X Will, which came bundled with the HD remasters for us Westerners. Well, unless this game suffers from Kingdom Hearts syndrome, writing the story of the third game ought to be a cinch, right? One would think. While I won't force you to endure the genuine horror of the novel, nor the world's worst Mary Sue in the audio drama, I want to give you an overview of what worries me about Final Fantasy X-3 in regards to its predecessor's content. These two side stories establish what happens in Spira following Tidus' return at the end of Final Fantasy X-2. The Farplane is unstable, the Moonflow is overflowing, and the Pyreflies are causing the physical and spiritual worlds to collide. Not a bad premise, and in fact, it has canonical roots. Visiting Guadosalam in Final Fantasy X-2 will hint at the Farplane's instability, and the Faith's interference with Tidus' resurrection could reasonably upset the balance of the world. But this presents an issue. If Tidus can return, it's theorized that anyone, and anything, can too. Including Sin. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, that unstoppable force you finally quelled in Final Fantasy X, it's back with a vengeance. Okay, fine, at least Tidus and Yuna are still together after I endured Dress Sphere hell for them. What? They're breaking up? Then why did I even play either of these games in the first place? Do you see the problem here? The audio drama undoes everything that happens in the first two iterations. Why did we bother defeating Sin if he returns? Why did we bother reuniting Tidus and Yuna if they break up? All of this feels so pointless. We worked too hard already. Why would we want to start over from an even worse vantage point? Even the character development they endured has all but disappeared. Yuna has returned to her reclusive religious roots, and Tidus does nothing but ogle Yuna, sign autographs, and make dick jokes? Like, why? The new cast members, Chuwami and Kurgum, are no better either. Chuwami supposedly being Auron's daughter based on hearsay, Kurgum's romantic feelings for Yuna that blossom literal moments after they meet, their elite positions in society for no apparent reason at the ripe age of 17. These are all common cliches and tropes in young adult fiction that would need to be inverted in order to avoid the unanimous roll of eyes across the entire world. Plus, Chuwami, you're really gonna pull the "I hate Yevoners because they killed my mom" card? What is this, Cruella? But despite my excessive ranting, it's not all bad. There is good to be gleaned from this announcement all the same. On one hand, all of this source material could be retconned entirely. Both the novel and the audio drama were received very poorly, from Japanese and American audiences alike. If you're batting 0 for 2, maybe you bring in a different hitter. However, given its inclusion and dubbing in the HD remasters, I have a suspicion it's here to stay. So let's say that all the blitz bombs and faith-making stick around. Fine, we can work with that. Where do we go from there? Chuwami's tragic backstory could set the stage for us to understand Spira's shaky religious state via the Yevoner hunts, while her own hunt for information surrounding her heritage could shed light on Auron's earlier years outside of his time serving Braska. And really, who's gonna complain about more Auron? Speaking of which, Auron could be alive, given how everyone refers to him in the present tense. And even if he's not, the Farplane's power could bring him back whether he wants to or not. Beyond our 2 new party members, I'm hoping that the lives of the previous members are expounded upon. While some of their stories, like Lulu and Waka, feel as though they've reached a logical conclusion, there are others who still feel full of potential. Did Riku and Gippel's machine faction uncover any more archaeological wonders? How did Baralai's construction of the Spearin Council affect the political atmosphere of Spira? Where did Elma, Lucille, and Nuge run off to now that the Youth League disbanded? And, of course, the merging of worlds could lead us to traversing through time, in a similar manner to Tidus and Yuna in Price of Eternity. The team has a smorgasbord of material to work with. They just need to be wise about its execution. Even if the story succumbs to age-old tropes, that doesn't mean the gameplay has to suffer too. The creation of Faith could see the return of fan-favorite summons that, through a system akin to the Creature Creator, could be tamed and controlled like any other party member. Blitzball maintains its grip on Spear's populace, while Sphere Break continues its infectious spread, meaning minigames aplenty could abound. And then, of course, there's the matter of the battle system itself, but that's a discussion for another day. At the end of the day, I would never turn down another chance to experience Spira anew. It is a world that is all too dear to my heart, and I don't want to ignore even the ugliest portions of its lifetime. Yes, I realize that I am the reason game companies can continue to make low-quality games because people like me will buy them, but no, I will likely not be changing my ways anytime soon. While my criticism of the intermediary material and skepticism of the sequel will remain intact, I choose to hope for a product that far surpasses expectations. Who knows? Perhaps Final Fantasy X-3 will wow me. They have all the time in the world to write it. Regardless of its eventual quality, for now, it is still nothing but a fleeting dream. That concludes my TED Talk for today. How are you feeling about the possibility of Final Fantasy X-3? And what would you want out of it, should it come to pass? Whatever you pray for, may the faith make your every dream come true.